Hello and welcome to Module 1, Lesson 4, Validating Your Idea. So you should be getting a bit excited now because you've done a lot of work and you're starting to see what it might look like to bring your freelance business to life, which is pretty cool. So by now you should have a pretty good idea of the kinds of services that you want to offer and the people who you want to work with. So in this session, we're going to talk about how you can go out and actually validate your idea and test to see whether it is something that is going to work really well once it goes live. So we're going to talk about the validation process, how to go through that, and how you'll validate your business ideas. And then we're going to give you some practical actions to make sure that you get this done as quickly as possible so that you can get on to actually launching your business. So why do we go through a validation process? Well, we want to make sure that your offering is going to be on point for your ideal customers. And by doing that, it's going to really help you to get the kind of work that you want to do. So what we want to do is we want to spend some time talking to your ideal client and asking them some questions and sharing the ideas that you've had so far, just to make sure that you are on the right track. And by doing that, you're also going to be able to get some feedback on your business idea. And that's going to enable us to do a little bit of further work if you need to develop your idea a bit further. It's always helpful to talk to other people and get their feedback. And I found that when I did that for this business, that it was really, really helpful. And I had a lot of great feedback from people, which not only helped me realize that this was something that was needed, but also that maybe there were some gaps in my original thinking that would benefit from some little tweaks to what I was proposing to offer. So that was really, really helpful. And I think it'll be really helpful for you as well. And then the other thing that can be quite useful from the validation process is that you might actually even find your very first clients. So by actually taking the time to go and talk to people who are your ideal client, you might find that they're actually looking for someone to help them at this very moment in time. And so that's going to enable you potentially just to sign up your very first client really, really early in this process. So what better way to validate your business idea than to get your very first client? So there are a few ways you can validate your business idea, and I've listed them out there, and we're going to go through them in a bit more detail. So I'll just quickly touch upon them now. So those are Facebook groups, asking around, which I've kind of mentioned, polls and surveys, interviews. You might like to do some interviews. And then another thing that can help you to validate your idea is to do a free trial. So Facebook groups might not seem like a very obvious place to start, but there are a lot of Facebook groups out there, like I've mentioned in some of the other sessions. And often you'll find that your ideal clients are in these Facebook groups. So it's really helpful to share some of your ideas in these groups and to ask people what they think. You might find that people are really helpful and can give you some feedback on your idea or how to tweak your idea. But you've also got to remember that everybody in these groups has their own idea about what's helpful. So they might not necessarily understand your business and your particular niche, but if there's people who are, then it's really, really helpful to ask and just put your idea out there and get some feedback. And I would say just be careful that it doesn't put you off entirely because, like I say, different people have different perspectives, but you might find that through talking to people in Facebook groups, you get some really helpful feedback. And again, you might find that there's people out there who go, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's exactly the kind of thing that I need. And again, that's just the most amazing form of validation for your business idea. If there are people who are wanting your services straight away. Another way that it's helpful too is that even if you don't want to share your idea specifically in a Facebook group, you can see the kinds of questions that people are asking by hanging out in Facebook groups. So that might give you an idea if there's somebody saying, look, I really need help with this. And that's the kind of service that you were thinking of offering. Again, that helps to validate your idea and say that there are definitely people asking for those services. And it might help you, when you're in some of these industry specific groups, you might get some ideas for specific things within your niche that people are needing help for, that perhaps you know how to help with, but maybe there aren't a lot of people offering those kind of services. So I think it's definitely worth trying Facebook groups. There's a few great groups that I'm in and that I've put in the list there. There's a girls in business group in just about every place, I think. I know there's a local one here in New Zealand, but I know there's also other ones overseas. Same with mums in business. There's a few different mums in business type groups, mums or moms around the world that you can find. And a lot of the people are really, really helpful and really supportive in those groups. And Boss Mums is another one. I think it's US based, but again, there's quite a lot of helpful discussion goes on in those, and there's heaps of other groups. So you might even be in some already that are specific to your niche or which you feel comfortable in sharing your ideas in. So feel free to make the most of those. And yeah, like I say, most people are really supportive. I would say just be a little bit careful of sharing maybe too much detail in some groups, unless it's a group that you know quite well, you feel really comfortable in, because there can be from time to time a little bit of taking of ideas in some of these groups. So you do need to be a little bit careful, particularly if you're offering something that's really unique, that you don't get sort of a copycat person. I mean, there's a lot of work to go around, no doubt. So you can make a judgment on that. But yeah, it's just sort of to be a little bit cautious about sharing anything too specific, because I have seen in different groups that people have sort of copycatted ideas or logos or some wording around brand names and those kind of things. So yeah, I wouldn't share everything, but just the general idea I think is quite helpful to share if you don't sort of have other people who you can talk to or you feel comfortable talking to about your business idea. Facebook can be really, really helpful. Particularly, I found some of the smaller groups, the local groups tend to be really good for that kind of thing as well. Now, one thing I found really, really helpful was actually asking around and talking to people. So you might be able to talk to your colleagues if you've got colleagues in your area who you have a good relationship with, and who you don't mind sharing this idea that you're, perhaps going out and starting your own business. Colleagues can be really helpful because they understand the niche that you're working in, and they might very well know someone who needs help, or they might need help themselves with something that they're doing. So yeah, colleagues can be really, really helpful. And I think the other thing too is that because they understand your work area, then they might have be able to think of some things that you might not have thought of, or just to sort of really help you tweak those kind of niche offerings. So colleagues are really helpful. Family and friends, again, can be really helpful as well. Same sort of thing, if they know, if you have people who know business, or again, who might have knowledge around the area that you're looking at working in, then definitely speak to friends and family about your business idea and ask them their thoughts. But again, take what people say a bit, like take it on board, but also be a bit cautious about some of the negative feedback, because again, people don't necessarily always understand what you're doing. I've often found in business, particularly in our property business, family and friends haven't really sort of understood the business model. So they might think, oh gosh, going into business is really risky. But you've had a really good think about it and weighed up the risks. And so, yeah, so you just have to be a little bit careful around sometimes the advice that family and friends give you from their perspective. But again, I think it is helpful to, put your ideas out there and have a chat to people. And then finally, I've put networks. So, if you're involved in maybe a business network, you might be involved in other sort of face-to-face groups like networking groups, or industry-specific groups where you have relationships where you can talk to people about what you're doing. and again, put your ideas out there. I was involved in a face-to-face networking group with a group of other women in business, and even though they weren't necessarily knowledgeable about the area that I was working in, they did have their own businesses, so we're able to provide feedback on some of the stuff that I was looking at doing. So those network groups can be really helpful for getting advice as well, particularly given that they're kind of a bit removed. So whereas you might not want to share with colleagues because if they know your boss or something like that, and you don't want them to go and talk pass that information on that you're, starting your own business or whatever, or again, they're independent from family and friends. So where family and friends might have that level of concern if you're starting a business and, being a bit uncertain about what that might mean for you financially, these business networks, they are other people who already have businesses. So might look at things from a bit of a different perspective as well. So that is one way that you can help to validate your business idea. Now, I've also put down there things like polls, surveys, and interviews. So again, you might like to do these in Facebook groups, or maybe if you've got a established news email list or something else you've done, you might be able to share those with people by email. Again, you might want to share those with family, friends, or colleagues. I did some interviews with people who I thought would be interested in the freelance mama, and asked them some questions around what I was planning to offer, and what would be helpful to them if this sort of course was to be available. And kind of just got together with a few people and had coffee and ran through some questions that I'd thought up, and asked them those questions. And then, we had a bit of a discussion around them, and often they had other ideas about things that would be helpful. And so doing interviews was quite a helpful way to get more information and to help validate my idea. And again, if you don't want to do face-to-face interviews, surveys can be quite a good way of putting those questions out there. So, you could send surveys around to people and get their feedback in writing, and that gives the opportunity for them to do that in their own time as well. And then another way that you might like to help validate your business idea is to offer your skills on a trial basis. I did this once as a client. So in one of the business groups that I was in, there was a lady who was looking at starting her own business, helping people as a virtual assistant. And she was offering, I can't remember specifically what her niche was, but she was able to help me with some website and email related issues. And so she put a post up in a group that I was in saying, she's looking at starting this business. She was offering, I can't remember what it was, sort of like an hour a day for 2 weeks or something like that to a certain number of people to help get her business noticed and to get some reviews and that kind of thing. And so that was quite a good way, I think, for her to see that, the kind of things she was offering would be in demand, but also, just to give her the experience of working with people and finding out what they needed and that kind of thing. So you might like to try that out and see whether, how that goes. I would be a bit careful about offering anything too extensive, because obviously if you're doing it on a free basis, then, your time has a value. So, it is quite valuable just if you can get people to agree to provide you with, maybe a review on your social media pages, just because it helps you in the long term with getting, or in the longer term, with people being able to see that, you've got good reviews if they are considering using you. But it also just, you can put it out there that these are the things that you do, and by actually trying to do that work for somebody, you might go, oh, okay, well, actually, that didn't work so well. Maybe I should offer this instead. And you can sort of tweak your package a little bit, and add or take away things that don't work out when you do that. And if you didn't want to do that on, on a free basis, you might perhaps put it out there that, you're looking at launching this business and your normal hourly rate will be X, but, to try it out, you're going to do it for a certain percentage discount, or you're going to do it for half price or something like that, just to give it a try and see how it goes. And just, you might do that for a few people and see what happens. Again, family, friends, and colleagues could be the kind of people who you might like to offer to help out. That's kind of like can be quite helpful again, because all of those people, I mean, they know you already, but might be more willing to provide you with reviews and that kind of thing, or referrals onto other people as well. And again, it's probably easier to get those people because they already know you, to provide you with some a bit more detailed feedback on what your offering is. I think I've mentioned it already though. I mean, Facebook groups and networking events as well, they're the kind of places where you might like to offer your skills at a free or discounted rate, to see how your business works. The sooner you get this done, the sooner you can move on to sort of tweaking your business model and getting on with finding the clients, or working for anybody who's popped up in this process and, saying that they need help. So I've said there that you should choose 3 Facebook groups where your ideal client hangs out. So some of those ones you might have used previously to talk to people, or ones that you use yourself, or know of yourself. Just choose those 3 groups. I wouldn't do it. I mean, you can do more than 3, but we don't want to spend too much time asking around and then not actually getting onto the work. So I've said there to post your idea in those groups and ask for feedback. Again, if the group has the kind of functionality where you can do a poll or a survey or something like that, you might like to consider popping a poll or a question into those groups, or a series of questions, and asking people for their feedback. I've said there it's a good idea to phone a friend. So if you have a friend or a colleague who you trust and who knows your industry, then give them a call or have a coffee with them. You might even like to do that with a few people and talk to them about your business idea and ask them what they think. And then if you want to take that to the next level, you might like to create a survey about your idea and then email it around to people, family and friends, and ask them if they don't mind completing a survey. And then finally, you might decide that you'd like to ask a few people a bit more detail about their survey responses. And so you might choose to, again, have a coffee with those people or jump on a Zoom with those people and ask a few of them some further questions to kind of elaborate on their answers, or maybe to ask some more detailed questions and have a chat with them about their thinking. So that's some actions that you can take, fairly quickly to help validate your ideas. And I think you'll find this is really fun and really exciting and really encouraging. And make sure you take notes of all of the feedback that you get in doing this, so that you can use this if you need to further develop your business idea. So that is our lesson 4. And so we are going to move on in the next video to talk about refining your offer using the information that you have obtained through this process.